I'm pleased to announce our next speaker, Dan Maccarone. Dan is the co-founder of probably the greatest named company I've ever heard, Charming Robot, a product design company based in New York City. For the past 12 years, he's been helping startups and media companies shape their online product strategy, including Foursquare, Rent the Runway, Jetsetter, and Savored. His experience also includes television, music, and print media, and he has worked with Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, Gawker, Saturday Night Live, Universal Music, and the Wall Street Journal. Dan will be sharing with us what you need to know when it comes to mobile e-commerce success. Put your hands together for Dan.
Thanks. Best company you've heard all week. That's really nice. Thank you very much. And that's our guy. That's our robot. So thank you guys so much for coming today. Like you said, I'm Dan. I've worked on a variety of things in the world of digital entertainment, things like Hulu and Jetsetter, things in the media world like the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, CNN, and a lot of things in commerce like Nicole Miller, Ralph Lauren, Kenneth Cole, etc. Even alternative e-commerce like Jetsetter or Rent the Runway. And what we've seen over the past couple of years is how much mobile has grown and how much more important it is than it ever has been before. And so I thought it would be important to talk to people about what are the best things we can do to make that experience better, because right now, it's not there. So the first thing we should do is talk a little bit about how we all shop. So I asked them to have a microphone out there for you guys to kind of tell me a little bit about what your best shopping experiences have been, offline or online. So let's start with the good stuff. Who can tell me what their best shopping experience ever is? Anyone? Feel free to raise your hand. No? Amazon? What about Amazon did you like? Or do you like? So the great thing about Amazon, right, is that they are able to kind of serve you from beginning to end. They make it really easy for you to buy something and have it delivered to you immediately. And if you pay them a little bit more through Prime, they get it there even sooner. And if you buy something, and for your Kindle, it's delivered to your Kindle right away. They're very much about getting you what you need, and if there's a problem, they'll fix it almost right away. You can call them up and they'll send you a replacement product, they will refund you your money. They're really easy to get a hold of, and they're really willing to help you because their job is to get you the things you want as fast as possible. They're really good at customer service, and they're really good at doing that in any place that they can, on the phone, on the iPad, on the desktop. What about a bad experience? Who's had a really bad experience shopping? No one here has ever had a bad experience shopping? Someone way there in the back. Yeah, you just raised your hand way back there. Yeah, I can kind of hear. Can we get a microphone? I think she's bringing you a microphone. So it can be offline or online. I think that bad shopping experiences happen all over the place, and it's often because people aren't thinking about what that experience has to do with their brand. It does not think about the impact of someone's opinion and making sure it's a return customer. Sure.
Got the mic now.
There you go.
So it's mostly in stores, for example, really rude sales assistants or someone ignoring you completely, stuff like that.
So when salespeople ignore you?
Yeah, it happens still.
It totally happens. The opposite happens too when salespeople just come up to you and bother you and they won't go away. Imagine, what that makes you feel about that particular store. It doesn't necessarily inspire you to want to go back to it, you know what I mean? So those kind of things that you're talking about are things that happen all the time online, offline, and more so on mobile than anywhere else. The thing is that the shopping experience should feel the same everywhere you go. And hopefully, as opposed to a bad example like that, it feels good. And right now, I think companies are bettering themselves online. They're making it a little bit more consistent between what happens when you walk into a store and how that brand serves you and how that experience might be on the desktop experience. But on mobile, that's not necessarily the case. What do you think the number one problem facing most businesses on mobile is? It's okay, I'm going to tell you. The problem is that most of them don't have a good mobile site. And starting to have a mobile version of your website is the first thing. It seems obvious, I know. It seems like that's what this talk is all about. Why would that be the number one problem? Well, the problem is that there are so many sites out there that are either not mobile-friendly or are designed wrong for mobile that it actually is so inconsistent and hurts brands. So I like to say that only 74% of the top 50 retailers have mobile-optimized sites. Now, that might seem like a large number, only 74%. Why only 74%? Well, the problem is that, first of all, that's only the top 50 retailers. You go beyond that, that number dips significantly. But more importantly, of those 74%, most of these sites are not designed thinking about how someone would actually want to shop on a phone or actually want to shop on a tablet. Instead, they're generally quickly put together afterthoughts that kind of allow you to shop, but don't really kind of optimize the whole flow from picking out whatever you want to buy through checking out, or understanding that maybe on your phone, shopping isn't what you want to do. Maybe on your phone, you're looking for a store, or you're looking to look up a price, and that's the thing that matters most to you. Well, that's a very different experience than if you wanted to just buy clothing or buy a DVD or something. So 1-800-Flowers put their site extremely highly optimized for mobile, and this is the kind of increase they got, 9,900%. Now, the amazing thing about this is not that stat, though I think that that's really well done for them. The amazing thing about this stat is that it was 2 years ago. This was before people were really thinking about optimizing for mobile, or when they were just starting to. Right now, most e-commerce sites get about 40% of their traffic from mobile. 2 years ago, that wasn't the case, but 1-800-Flowers saw the opportunity, embraced it, and changed their business for the better, obviously. And it's amazing what they can do with it. And you look at businesses who don't do that, who you go to their site and it's a really complicated desktop version that's scrunched into a little screen, and you don't want to buy anything. And these guys made it easy on one click to have flowers or whatever other gifts you want delivered to that special someone. The other thing that's really challenging about this is that whatever impact you think your store might have or your desktop version might have, your mobile version has as well. It's just as much a representation of your brand. You would never, if you were a fashion designer or you're some sort of commerce retailer, you would never have set up like a blockade at your door, not letting someone into the store because you didn't like the idea of them shopping at a physical location. I think a lot of people don't think about it that way. You would never find a way within your checkout process at a store to make it take longer, right? You wouldn't be like, okay, you talk to this person where you give them your merchandise, and then over here you give them your credit card, and then over here, you might have to give them your address, and then over here, you would never do that because it would be ridiculous and hard, and you'd have long lines at your store, or you'd have no lines because no one would want to shop there. The same thing is true in mobile. People are going to be offended if you can't serve them. Now, this number may not seem that large, 57%. It's a majority, but it may not seem that large. But when you think about the fact that mobile commerce is not just specific to the United States, Poland, Europe, it's a global phenomenon. In just these 3 countries alone, 30 to 45% of their consumers are making purchases on their phones on a regular basis. Now, I don't know if you know anything about India or China, but that's a lot of people, billions of people. And still, they're not being served. And it's not that they can't do it. They can. They can shop on their phone. It's just harder. So the reason why it's harder is that we are very, very much in the early stages of mobile commerce, in that we now know that people want to shop, so now we've got to create things that people actually like, right? So here we got these common challenges people have. We have data around the fact that people can't see images. They can't find the products. They can't load the page. And this is a huge issue. Load time on phones is a huge issue because there's nothing worse than sitting on your phone trying to buy a product and just being like, and you just keep clicking it and nothing happens. There's nothing more frustrating than that. Whether it's on an app or on a browser, it doesn't matter. But the good thing is we have the data. We have this data to know that we aren't doing it right. And we can learn from that. Whenever we do research, we talk about how can we make things better? What are the opportunities to learn about how people are really wanting to use this product? And we're learning, that people are trying to buy, they're trying to find products. We're learning how they're using things on these devices to make it better. And we're going to talk about what those are. But the first thing to consider when we think about what can we do better is understanding what we're doing wrong the most. And that's that we're not representing our brand. Not having a mobile website is basically saying to your customers that you don't care. And you would never do that verbally. So what do you do? How do you show your customers you care? To me, that's the question you have to ask yourself. So think of it this way. When e-commerce first started, the best way of thinking about your desktop version of your store was that it was another store. It wasn't just a marketing vehicle. In fact, I remember I was talking to this fashion designer about a year ago, and we were redoing their site, and she believed at the time that her site was all about people coming to find out about her. And she's a very well-known dressmaker. So she's like, I want people to come to my site and read about me and know who I am because I'm the face behind the brand. And I was like, I don't think that's true. I think people are here to buy your dresses, which is good because it's a business. She's like, no, they want to find out about me. And I'm like, well, I'm looking at your analytics right now, and your analytics say that 40% of people who come to your site click on dresses, and 0.02% click on you. So I think that means no one wants to read about you. And if you made your site all about you, if you put pictures of yourself out there, you should be embarrassed because it's just an ego stroke and it's not part of your business. And her CEO was sitting next to her and he's like, I get it. This is a store. This is just like how we'd open a store. And I was like, yeah, duh. That's what we're trying to do here. And it changed the way they thought about things. But here's the funny part. In the middle of doing that, in the middle of that amazing realization, we're about to start doing designs for mobile. And they decided, you know what? We're not going to design the mobile aspect yet. We think, we really should focus on desktop. And I'm like, 35% of your customers are coming to your mobile site, and right now, it is a shell of a website. It is embarrassment to the internet that this is what you have representing your brand out there. And they were like, we're going to wait. And they waited. And they relaunched the site. And their traffic to mobile went up by 5% to 40%, and their sales plummeted because they used a default template from their system, which was Magento for e-commerce. And that template is not at all what people want. People want to see beautiful pictures when they're shopping for clothes. They want to understand, how is this piece of clothing going to fit me? And instead of focusing on that, they just were like, we'll just do it later. So of course, their sales plummeted, and they're like, oh, we should spend more money and do this. And I'm like, you could have done this from the beginning and had a very seamless experience between your online stores, your offline stores, and your mobile store, and each of them would be, let's look at them as cousins, because they're not going to feel exactly the same. When you design an online store, it's about getting someone through that shopping process and what that means. When you design an offline store, it's about control. Designers have control of what you discover and how you discover them, and kind of handhold you through the store to help you find things. And when you design something on mobile, it's about understanding the different scenarios that someone's using it. It might be about finding a store. It might be about finding the product you want right away. It might be about buying a gift. But it's going to be a very different and probably much shorter experience than buying something anywhere else. So the other important thing to consider when you're thinking about mobile is that there's a lot of ways that people are discovering you on mobile. It's not just through search. It's not just by typing your URL. Actually, it probably isn't by typing in your URL. They're probably finding you by Facebook, which is like 50% of mobile commerce purchases are done from Facebook. 48% of them are done through, or conversions rather, are done through Pinterest. And then the rest of them are through search. Now think about the opportunities there. If you know that there's context that someone has by clicking on a product from Facebook, you can serve that information up to them on the phone and make it easier for them to make a purchase. Same thing with Pinterest. With search, you might know what they search for. You might be able to target what that page looks like for them on the web versus what it might look like if they had come directly from your front door. But no one does this. I've not seen anyone do this, and I think that the opportunity to make it easier, to make it more friendly, to give people what they need and hand-hold them through it because they might be a little bit nervous about checking out a mobile is a much smarter way of doing things than just landing them on a typical product page and letting them figure out how they're going to read about that product. The other thing that's kind of astounding is how much it's growing globally. So just in the United States, we're looking at 188% increase in sales this year. Like, this is telling me that if people aren't thinking about this, then they're making a mistake. But the challenge is also that we have to deal with multiple platforms. Now, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we used to have browser wars, right? There was Netscape, there was Internet Explorer, there was Safari and Opera, and now that kind of has gone away, right? Especially with Microsoft's recent announcement about Internet Explorer. Like, we are making it easier and easier to shop on the internet and making it harder and harder to shop on mobile because 50% of people are buying on smartphones, 50% of people are buying on tablets, and that doesn't even address the breakdown between iPhone and Android. So there are so many different ways that people are trying to buy things. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around it. But we can at least think about it through this way. There are tablets and there are phones, and there are different ways that people are going to shop on those. So let's talk about what those might be. And think about them, and think about how people are using those in different countries. Like we said, China is very different than the US, it's very different than India. And everywhere, it's kind of exploding. It's kind of hard to focus, right? Not only did Europe grow 102% last year, but next year, it's expected to make over $280 billion just in mobile commerce. So how do we do this? Well, let's look at some other information. We know that people are buying things on a phone, but they're doing research on their phones. We want to think about how can we provide the information that's going to be helpful, not just to purchase, but to maybe help them make a purchase elsewhere. Maybe they're going to research on the phone and buy later in the store. Maybe they're in the store right now. We know that people are spending money. We can't be afraid of just giving small ticket items. We can give large, expensive ticket items. We can give people the opportunity to buy a lot of things. We know that retailers are thinking about this, but the problem is they're thinking about the fact that they have to be out there, but they don't know what to do. Our job, and I think that it's kind of like what Andrew was talking about this morning, our job is to help them solve this problem, to help them find ways to make themselves smarter in mobile. And they want to put money behind it. So let's do that. So the first things first, what are people doing? What are they buying? Well, the good news is they're buying everything. Maybe not everyone's buying as much jewelry online as they are travel reservations, but the opportunity for every type of business vertical is there. People want to do things fast. They want the convenience of doing it on their phone or their tablet, and they want to do it as quickly as possible. So we got the first two down. Let's go with the right solutions. Let's think about this. Everybody is doing it. It's not just people with a lot of money. It's not people who only have tablets. It's people who are regular people who shop at Walmart. Walmart until recently was the #1 shopping app, and now it's Target. Like the two most popular shopping apps in America, at least, are the two most diverse department stores that sell everything. So people are buying all sorts of things. Now that's a hard thing to account for, right? It's hard to account for the fact that you have to tell someone, okay, I can tell you how you can buy a pair of sheets for your bed, but also how to buy a computer, or also how to buy a phone. Buying a phone on your phone is a little bit meta, I guess, but it's an opportunity. And we have to simplify that for people. And the greatest thing about it is we can try things. We can put things out there, get the data, evolve it, make it better and better. That's what we do, right? As UX people, that's our job, is to think about these things and constantly make things better. So the other thing we know from data is what they're doing on these things. And this is where it gets interesting. Designing something for the tablet versus designing something for the phone is actually an amazing opportunity because people use these devices differently. So one thing we know about tablets, and you can kind of see this from this diagram here, is that people are buying a lot more on tablets than they are necessarily on phones. And they're using their phones outside of their house. They're going to the store, they're looking at prices, they're doing research, they're looking for coupons. They're actively trying to shop in two ways at once, right? On mobile and in the store. So we can design for that experience. We can detect, through GPS, we can detect where they are. It might be a little scary, but we can definitely do that. And I think people like Foursquare do that really well. They let you check in, they might say, hey, you just checked into Walmart, we can give you a 10% discount today. That's smart thinking about commerce. It's not just about the site itself, it's where you message people, how you can get to them. On tablet, we found in research that people are shopping, at home. They're laying on their couch and they're kind of watching TV while they're doing it. Well, that's a very different experience than kind of shopping on your phone and kind of peck things out. It gives you the ability to have larger visuals and to maybe have a more magazine-y effect. And I normally would punch myself for saying that something should look magazine on an iPad because I think that's very trendy. But it's a much more calm and I think relaxing way of shopping. And think like travel with Jetsetter was like that as well. Jetsetter on the iPad, Jetsetter on the web is all about the pictures. It's all about, I want you to daydream to want to go to this place so bad that you have to make a reservation, or at least you have to think about it for a day or two, and we'll just keep in mind that you went there and looked at it, so next time you come here, we can serve this back up to you. So the important thing is that we know this data, right? So what I just said about phones, that's something to put in the back of your mind, because when you're designing it for phone, you're going to think about the fact that I want someone who's not in their house to use this, and I want them to know that anytime they want to like shop, I'm there to help them. But here's the other thing: they're shopping beyond one device. So I look at this thing on JetSetter, I get an email from them, I'm like, oh, that place looks great, and then later on I go to JetSetter on my iPad. I want you to be able to tell me that I can continue with that experience. Maybe you give me more information. Maybe you kind of build this excitement over this product that I want to buy, so every time I go there, I'm getting more and more excitement. I'm like, yes, I want to buy this. And finally, you encourage me, and no matter where I am, and you can track that, and you can create an experience that really feels like this person has been taken care of. Sometimes when I give a talk about product, I ask that shopping question, and people have responded that one of their favorite shopping experiences is going to like a Saks Fifth Avenue or Barney's or someplace where they're a little bit more high-end and they can get a personal shopper. And they're like, my favorite thing about it is they know me. I walk in and they're like, okay, we picked out these clothes for you. Well, imagine how awesome that is if you're using a device that knows you and can push products to you that are relevant, not over salesy, but relevant. If you're on Amazon, for example, and you have a regular order of things that are shipped to you, why can't it let you know like their shipment's on its way without you asking them? These are all ways that we can quickly and elegantly get people excited and loyal to us. So I've been talking about tablets a little bit and kind of how important they are. And a couple of years ago, what would happen is that most of the time, you were served up the desktop version of a site when you looked at it on a tablet. And that was okay. You know what I mean? 2.8, 6.2%, like, that's not bad. We can get away with that. We don't have to focus on it and spend a lot of time creating a third version of the site. But now, that's not acceptable. People expect something different. They expect more. They expect us to be thinking about how they use things. And what's even better about this is that it's increasing all over. But if we focus on tablet differently, I think we're gonna find something out that's interesting. So we're gonna get back to that in a second. We want to make sure that we are not taking on too much at one time. I suggest when you're designing for mobile that you focus on one piece. Do the desktop, do the mobile, do the tablet. But if you try to do everything at once, it's going to be confusing. It's going to be muddled. You're going to have so many different things you're thinking about that I don't think you can actually create a seamless experience, because you're going to learn from your data on all your pieces what people are doing. So one of the things I was talking about with tablets, and why I want to focus on this for a bit, is that we can actually target when they're using it on a tablet, right? We know that people are using tablets at night. They're sitting on their couch, they're watching whatever TV show they want to watch, they're kind of swiping things, they're kind of half paying attention. We can design an experience that isn't a second screen experience. It's not like it's helping them with whatever they're watching, but it is considered the fact that they are relaxing. We know that they want to spend more money. Let's give them opportunities to do that. And we know that their chances of buying something on their tablet are higher. So maybe we use the phone as a supplement to, or a complement to the tablet to get them down that purchasing process. One of the major issues in designing anything, content, commerce, whatever, is how are people building their sites? So right now, if you look at, if someone's not using a mobile site, it's going to take a long time to load on the phone. That's annoying. Fair enough. But the more distracting number to me is 4 seconds. For 4 seconds on your phone, for something to load, it tells me that this product has been built wrong. So one of the reasons that could be is that you're just using a lot of very heavy images, and that's totally fine. But another reason might be, and this is a big debate in the world of design right now, is are people designing things responsively, or are they designing things adaptively? And so responsively, right, it means that you are taking the same set of code, the same set of information, and kind of shrinking it down through each breakpoint, right? So bigger for desktop, a little bit smaller for tablet, a little bit smaller for mobile. But that code can be so heavy because it has to think about so many different things. So that could be added to it. So what we do when we're doing mobile, the first thing we do when we're talking to our client is understand what they want to do, what they want their customers to do, what they think their customers are doing, and then kind of come up with like a mobile strategy. And there's a lot of confusion, and our job is to educate them. So a lot of people come to us. This happened to us with a client recently, where they came to us with a proposal, or with a request for a proposal, saying all the things they needed. They had all the requirements down, and they're like, this must be responsive. We got on the phone with them. We're like, well, why does it have to be responsive? What's the reason for that? They're like, well, isn't that the thing? Aren't you just supposed to be responsive right now? And we're like, it's a little bit trendy, but what makes you say that? They're like, well, I don't know. Everyone just keeps telling us we have to be responsive, and we have to be responsive. And we're like, well, you're you're actually a very, you have a very large mobile presence. Perhaps you should think about designing this experience for your customers. And they kind of sat for a second. They were like, well, no one ever explained it to us that way. Well, we're like, okay, well, let's look through your code. Let's look through your products. Let's look at people using your site. And we found that everyone is coming to their site to actually not buy clothes. They're coming there to find where the stores are. So we're like, well, let's make your store locator a big part of that homepage, and let's get people into the paths they need to go. And that's very different than what their desktop site looked like. And we kind of came up with this strategy with them, and they were really excited about it. They were like, we finally understand all this like Google Analytics we were looking at, and we didn't know what these charts meant. No one explained them to us. And I was like, that's what we do. That's what we all do. We're there to educate, to help them. They know they need to go somewhere. We're here to take them there. So here's another weird thing. When you have a mobile site, people aren't giving access to the full site. Now, there are times when you want that. There's certain information you're going to cut out of a mobile site, and that's totally cool. Like, you don't need always to have every single piece of information. You don't need that about section. You don't need all this stuff that's going to weigh that experience down and put too much on that screen. When you have a responsive design, by the way, you can't give people access to the full site because the browser thinks it's detecting where it is and changing the code based on that. So maybe that's another reason to do an adaptive site. So this is another weird thing, right? People send their tablet visitors to their mobile site. Here's the thing. Tablet is not a mobile device. It just isn't. People thought, like, when the iPad was announced, that people were going to use it like a phone, and they're not. Like, it is a relaxing device. It's a device you sit there and you kind of use it. You're kind of doing a few things at once. You're not multitasking like you do on your desktop, but you're not in a hurry usually like you are on your phone. It's a very different experience, and you can't just send someone something that looks like a phone because it looks like a mistake. So, like I said earlier, people sometimes used to default to the full site. In fact, right now, the standard is that most people on iPads are directed to, if at all, directed to the desktop version, and on Android, they're directed to mobile. I don't know why that is, but somehow that's what people have decided, and it's a really strange phenomenon. So when there's such a big opportunity, why would we want to waste our time, or waste a bit of code to give someone the wrong experience? But the biggest reason why there's a lot of problems on mobile, is that people can't check out. This is one checkout form on a phone. That's a ton of information. It's one page, just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. When we were looking at Andrew's presentation earlier, he had this picture of an iPad, an iPad with a keyboard up, and so you see like this much of the screen. Imagine you're only able to see like 2 of these forms, and you keep going and keep going and keep going. And it never ends. And you're on this tiny device. Like, we should be smarter about this. Give fewer steps. Like, do we need all this information? Probably not. So, sorry, guys. Thank you. Damn weather. The big question we are finally always asked is, should I have an app? And the answer to that question is not simple. It's not like, no. You might need an app. But it's when in the process do you create an app versus a desktop, a mobile site. My answer is always, you should always have a mobile site that is optimized no matter what. That's just table stakes at this point, and if you don't, you should be kicked out of the internet. Because an app, people want to have apps that are like, oh, the open rate in apps is so high, and people are, they're so addicted to their apps. That might be true with Facebook, with Pinterest, with their email, maybe with Twitter. But to get on that front screen, and the front screen is the only one that matters. I mean, if you're on the second screen or the third screen, people aren't going to those apps. So to get on that front screen of those 12 apps, it's really hard. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do work that's hard. That's great. I'm excited for you if you want to do hard work. I like to do hard work. But are we going to do relevant work? So if you're going to create an app, why? For something like Guilt or Rue La La, where there are flash sales, we can push something to them. It's people who want to go there every day and look at things. I buy that makes sense. But for just an everyday brand like Ralph Lauren, no. I don't think they need an app. I think they can have one if they want to, if it's like a checkbox in their list of things. But it's certainly not something they have to make themselves successful. What they need to do is understand how people are coming there, why people are coming there, and make that experience great. Make the app later. The one interesting thing about apps, by the way, smartphone apps perform much better than tablet apps. So if you're going to make it, at least start with the phone. So I thought I was going to spend a lot of time talking about apps today, and I realized that I really think it's more important that people focus on that web experience. It really is a thing that people are doing wrong, and I think we could be better educators and help them. So with that, in my scratchy throat, I'm gonna go to Q&A.